Moment in time.
I remember you sitting in that room, that brown, like powered piano or something.
And it would be like 22 seconds of an idea, and you'd just be like banging on the piano and going, okay, here's the next one.
Won't you stay for a while and remember the days gone by? Let me say once more that I love you. Let me say one time, maybe two. Our lives will always be richer for the time we've spent here with you. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Oh come ye to Bethlehem.
We go back a long way, this group in Nashville, a long way.
And friends of friends forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them.
This is A Moment in Time, the radio special, brought to you by Reunion Records, Myrrh Records, and Tree Torn. I'm Jon Rivers. During the Lead Me On World Tour, over 1 million people have experienced the emotion, the electricity that happens when Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith share the spotlight. But these are relationships that go back a long way.
A guy that was publishing my stuff at the time took Father's Eyes out to Gold Mine Studio for you guys to hear.
Yep.
And I sat at the office and waited on him to come back. Actually, did Gary Pig take it out?
Yeah, you were
That's right.
waiting at the office?
Oh, yeah, are you kidding?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it just came in the mail.
No.
I've always said all these years it came in the mail.
Well, you've been lying then, haven't you?
I didn't know it. I was home for my first weekend home my freshman year in college, and this first album that I did had actually sold close to 20,000 copies, and the record company felt that it merited a follow-up album, and so we were scrambling around looking for songs. Brown and I were, and a friend of ours brought out your tape to Goldmine.
He was working for Paragon at the time.
Right.
Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember we put the song on, and it was incredible, and it was great. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon, and it was the perfect setting for that kind of song because it's a real listening. You got to listen to the lyric song. And I remember calling Chris Christian and saying, "This is we found the next big song." And he said, "How long is it?" And we said, "Almost 5 minutes." And he said, "It can't go on the record." And then he changed his mind. And you and I met at that album release party.
Yeah.
And you were
Aggressive.
you were so aggressive, and I was there with my boyfriend, and
Which was who?
That was Brown.
Brown,
Brown.
at the time. Brown and I had been dating for a while, and Gary just kept coming around.
The songwriter who wouldn't leave.
Right.
That's right.
Gary Chapman, the songwriter who wouldn't leave, of course, would one day make Amy his wife. But before that momentous occasion, another songwriter, namely Michael W. Smith, would enter their lives, and here's how that came about.
I think I met Gary first.
Were you at the offices over on 18th, or were you?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
you came
in and out, but I didn't write at that office until it moved over to 19th and Hayes.
19th and Hayes.
Is that it?
I think they fill teeth in that building now.
Right. Yeah, they do feel teeth there.
I
And
remember you sitting in that room, that brown, like Howard piano or something. Remember that piano?
hmm we met because you got signed with Paragon.
Yeah.
I came along and signed with Paragon like in September of '80, and then that's when we kind of started writing a little bit together. I really didn't know you that well, Amy, really. I mean,
My first memory of you is so vivid. It must have been at the publishing office over on Hayes Street, and you had on some like red pants when you were real hyper.
Incredible, you remember all
Yes,
that.
and he was zipping around the room, and he said, "Well, I've got a few song ideas here." And
What was the barometric pressure that day? Do you
I
remember?
can't remember that, but I remember that
Red
you put this
pants.
tape on, and this is before I knew anything about the way you wrote. And this stuff, I mean, the music came on, and you were singing totally unintelligible phrases, and it would be
Just
like
you do now.
just like that now. And it would be like 22 seconds of an idea, and then and you just be like banging on the piano and going through. Okay, now here's the next idea. Okay, maybe about 12 seconds of that, and then there was another one, and it was. I don't know how long the tape was, but I remember thinking that I'd never seen anybody whose approach to music was as reckless and happy as
He was a
yours.
shotgun.
I mean, you had more ideas than anybody I knew, and some of them were great, some of them were trash, and you couldn't tell the difference. And
I'd
you
say
were
most
just
of them were bad.
no,
Most of them were bad.
no. I thought it was wonderful. It was just like somebody turned on a faucet full blast, and here it, boom, there was Smitty, and that was the most fun thing about. Getting with you when you said I've got some ideas, because it wasn't somebody coming into the room, with a song idea that was equivalent to, some people like labor over a song idea so long that by the time they play it to anybody, they're so defensive about it. They're so careful that everybody accepts it. It's got to be the right mood.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Right. But you were just, okay, if you don't like that idea, I've got about 56 more on the rest of this tape, and just let's fly through them and see what you think.
Right. I remember the first song that Gary and I wrote together was a song called "In His Hand."
Is that the first one?
I thought it was.
I mean, I wouldn't.
That Sandy Patty cut, like on her second album. I think that was.
You're kidding. I got a Sandy Patty cut?
How about that? You never knew that.
No.
No, come on. Seriously?
I'm not kidding. I didn't think she ever cut anything.
Long time since I've seen you smile, but when I close my eyes, I remember you were no more than a child, but then so was I, young and tender. Time carries on, I guess it always will. But deep inside my heart, time stands still. Stay for a while. It's good to see your smile, and I love your company. Won't you stay for a while and remember the days gone by? For a moment it can seem just the way it used to be. Snow falls, phone calls, broken hearts, clear summer days, warm and lazy. Long walks, long talks after dark. We vowed we'd never forget. Now it's hazy. Time takes its toll, and time alters our youth. But it would be nice to spend some time with you. So stay for a while. It's good to see your smile, and I love your company. Won't you stay for a while
at that point, really, for me, it's I guess I met Mike and Dan, and I think
Mike Plant and Dan Harrell.
y'all were fixing to go do the Age to Age record. Matter of fact, you'd already gone to Caribou and done I'd really become involved with Mike and Dan. Was trying to become a somewhat of accomplished keyboard player. Was doing some studio stuff, and I can remember at O'Charlie's talking to Mike, and I was really disappointed that I wasn't going to go to Caribou. Do you remember that? Sorry, we brought.
Didn't you
Mr.
wind up
Blanton
going
and
though?
stuff.
No,
I
it was
didn't
the
go on
next
the age.
album.
I didn't go on the Age to Age, and y'all we ended up writing stuff. We wrote "I Love a Lonely Day."
Yep.
Paragon.
right.
That's "I Love a Lonely Day," and then y'all took an idea of "Got to Let It Go." Was a little idea I had musically.
And, yeah, and also another one was In a Little While.
But what I remember really vividly was,
Incredible.
for some reason, it was a real intense time for me. I don't know what it was, but it kind of felt like it was almost the breaker of like, am I going to get involved with you guys or not? Was at Tree Publishing Company upstairs when y'all came back. You two, and I thank you, and Brown, and me, and I was just, for some reason, I was petrified. I don't know why. But I played y'all the music to Arms of Love.
That's right.
Yeah.
And y'all sat there and decided between that and something else or whatever, and you two ended up writing the lyric.
Right. And we wrote that lyric in Centennial Park
Mm-hmm.
in a car one night.
And I went to Gold Mine and played it, and you came and sang it. And ever since then, it was like,
In Mike Flint.
it was kind of like, hey, we're going to do a tour. You'd done the tour with the Garmon Key band kind of deal, and all of a sudden you're going to put a whole new band together, and I was invited to go. And really, Gary had done his first album for Benson, right? Had you done that kind of in the meantime?
You've done your second album for Benson, because that was spring of '82.
All I know is I went out and played keyboards, and you opened up acoustically, came out and did a thing acoustically,
Yeah.
and then,
Did my vaudeville routine.
right.
Right.
And then ever since then, really, from that tour, which was that was the spring of '82. I had just gotten married in '81. It was really hard for me to leave. I was leaving 4.5 months later, and it was only 3.5 weeks. The tour's 3.5 weeks. I swore I'd never do another tour the rest of my life.
It was that long.
It
and
was
that
grueling.
long. It was unbelievable. And I even got it on a cassette. I did a diary cassette, and me talking to Gary Pig going, "I'll never do another tour," I miss my wife, for one thing. It was just like, sometimes I'd call her up and we wouldn't even say anything. We'd just cry, It was that. And I guess all newlyweds are somewhat like that. But we got over that whole thing, and really ever since then, we started writing songs together, And that summer of '82 was, it was really the end of that tour. I took in a song called "You Need a Savior." That was on my first album, but at that point wasn't on any album. Took it in the office, and I remember Mike Blanton saying, "Hey, you bring in 9 other songs like this, and we'll do a record." I brought 9 other songs in, and before you know it, I was doing the project album. And again, let's do the Age to Age tour, and that lasted from my time with Gary and Amy was from '82 to '84. So it was like, this thing was on a roll, and wrote all the songs for Straight Ahead.
Yep. It seems like it's always been the process of saying, okay, who's on first, who's on second, okay, who's in the studio now, okay, you can't go on tour, you can't go in the studio if they're going to be on tour, y'all can't be on tour while Smitty's in the studio. For the management company, it's always been the challenge of somehow scheduling us so that we can be available to each other while whoever's in the studio is in the studio.
Yeah.
And part of it was because, there's no chance to be involved at all if you're not there. And when we have been available to each other, we've always all been very involved in each other's records. And I guess it's good we're all with the same management company, or we would have never connected. I remember the first time that you went to Caribou with us, and we were doing Straight Ahead.
Straight Ahead.
The album Straight Ahead. It's so funny now because, to me, in my estimation, whenever you are involved in a studio setting now or in concert, you are the primary keyboard player. People look to you for establishing the feel, for, okay, what space is Smitty going to take up on tape, and we'll work around that. I really felt that when we were doing Lead Me On, and that's obviously how it is live. But way back when Straight Ahead was coming down, I remember it was like, okay, do you think he can play Thy Word on tape? Well, let's play it to a click. And you'd never played to a click on tape. Yeah. And I remember, start over, roll it back. I know I can do this, I was
going at the races, boy, I
But you were just fresh and young and inexperienced, which, if I were hearing this, would give me a lot of hope if I were young and inexperienced and people were telling me that I didn't quite have it yet. Mm-hmm. And Gary, that reminds me of the time that you went out.
I was never young and inexperienced.
That just reminds me of the time that unnamed president of a publishing company in Nashville told you that you didn't have it and to go home, pack your bags and go. And you went home that day and wrote...
All I Ever Have to Be.
That's right, All I Ever Have to Be.
Great song.
Yeah, good song.
You know these I Am posters? They got I Am, they got all the titles of God. I have one of these posters.
They had one of those in Paragon.
Huh?
Had one of those at Paragon. Is that where you got it?
Yeah. Well, I got it someplace. I liked the one at Paragon. I thought I'd like to have one of those, and I hung it up in my little music room. It was our first. Well, this is after Deb and I got married. We were renting in a duplex over in West Nashville. I had this very, very small room to write in, but I had a little music idea. And again, I'm not, as you probably already know, I'm not the lyric king here, and that's why I'm always leaning on, Gary and Amy a lot for lyrics. But I just saw this I Am poster and I thought, gosh, this sounds like a real kind of uplifting kind of praise thing, It was just kind of a shot in the dark. I never really expected it to be taken seriously.
So he sang phrases off the poster.
I just sang phrases off the poster. And I called it Emmanuel.
This is the Moment in Time radio special with Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith. Reflections on the Lead Me On World Tour and the lives and special times of these unique Christian artists whose ministries impact countless thousands of lives around the world, whose songs and singing have a real meaning.
I tell you, there's just not much good singing unless you've got something good to sing about. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come
to me, in a lot of ways, I think for a lot of kids, that's really a highlight of the evening. There's something I get a lot of comments about people just love when everything kind of breaks down and it's just the three of us. It's almost like this is really cool. This is.
Yep.
I think they see
I think one of the reasons people come is they want to hear your music and they want it to be a fun night, but they want to get to know you a little better.
Right, and that's where they get to know.
There's no part of the show that does it like that.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you what, when it's an emotionally charged night, if somebody in the crowd feels it, multiply that times 10, and that's what it feels like on stage. The reason being, for somebody that buys a ticket and comes to a concert, it's one night out of 365 in a year when they go someplace with whatever expectations they come bringing, and either they walk away saying this was worth my time or it wasn't. And if we manage to connect between the stage and the crowd, then they walk away hopefully saying this was worth my time.
A Moment in Time with Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith will continue.
The first cut was Father's Eyes, and you are now a for real songwriter.
Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith, friends of yours and mine, special intimate friends with each other.
Long time since I've seen your smile.
On the Lead Me On World Tour, over 1 million people experience the emotion, the electricity that happens when these three special friends share the spotlight.
And friends of friends forever. If the Lord's the Lord of them.
Now you can take home that phenomenon, that special moment and time to last you a lifetime with your very own limited edition cassette, A Moment in Time. Exclusive interviews and live recordings from the Lead Me On World Tour with Amy, Gary, and Michael. Hurry, don't miss out on this very special opportunity to capture a moment in time forever. Sponsored by Tree Torn, Myrrh, and Reunion Records. Available at participating retailers in your area. Welcome back to the Moment in Time radio special with Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith. I'm Jon Rivers. The Lead Me On World Tour is a tour that will be remembered as special to many people for many different reasons.
This tour's been so different from a spiritual standpoint from any tour I've ever been on. All the tours I've been on before, or even tours that I've gone backstage and prayed with the band before they've gone on, there's this, it seems to be a pervasive sense of we are on stage because at this point in time we're the ones who have it together. And I would say it's the exact
Wrong, Bosco.
other extreme with this tour. And part of it's because we all know each other so well. Nobody's getting up there with a pristine exterior that people don't really know what the interior has been through. And I remember we'd been on the road at the beginning of the fall. We were facing 3.5 months on the road, and I grew up in a family of all girls, and that kind of affects how vulnerable I would get with a group of guys. I can tend to run for a little more distance. We think that Christianity affects the exterior, only the exterior, and people can be dying on the inside.
Really, honest Christianity affects only the interior, and the interior affects the exterior.
Right.
But that's not how we grew up. It's like you had to maintain the exterior to somehow make the interior seem valid. There was nothing really in there if you didn't look like it was.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not the case. That's not the way it works.
That's right. And I think that's what has struck me so much about this tour is that there are people that have followed Christ long enough within the band to say, unless I can be painfully gut level honest about where I'm struggling today, then what's the point of being here at all?
Yeah.
It was like everybody all of a sudden went, okay, now I understand we can really be vulnerable here. Nobody has to hold up a facade.
During her Unguarded tour, I talked with Amy, and she had told me about a recurring dream that she had at that time, about swimming the English Channel and looking behind her and seeing a whole line of children and young people. They were hanging onto a rope that she had tied around her waist, and she kept going down. They kept saying, Go for it, Amy. Keep going. We're counting on you to pull us through. So I asked Amy if that dream is still one that she has quite often, and if so, if it's the same.
There's a line from a song that Phil Nash and Dan Huff and I wrote for this Lead Me On album called All Right. And there's a line that says, I've heard it said when the river's running high, you get to higher ground or you die. Well, muddy waves of pain washed over me, but it only made me see it's going to be all right. And I guess the way that my swimming the English Channel vision has changed is that even when I recounted that to you, there was a part of me that felt that I had to find the ability in myself to stay afloat. And I think that the reality of my life is that I know what it's like to sink and drown and really not come back up. And that the whole reason that God is He brings things that are dead back to life. And He brings kids that are on the verge of suicide back to a meaningful relationship with the people that they know and with themselves. And, you know, even 3 years ago, a part of me was still trying to find the strength in myself. And there's a place where it's so good to just fail and have to find God in it. I still feel that way, like I did about the, you know, it's not necessary for everybody that I sing to know all the details of my own struggles. But it sure makes a difference for when I have been in hard times to know that the people ahead of me still follow Christ and have made it.
El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age, you're still the same. By the power of the name, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Irkom Kana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. Through your love and through the Ram, you save the son of Abraham. And through the power of your hand, you turn the sea into dry land. To the outcast on her knees, you were the God who really sees. And by your might, you set your children free. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age, you're still the same. By the power of the name, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Irkom Kana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. Through the years, you made it clear that the time of Christ was near. Though the people couldn't see what Messiah ought to be, though your word contains the plan, they just do not understand. Your most awesome work was done through the frailty of your Son.
You know, I first met these fellas almost 10 years ago. They were both starving, living in Nashville. Gary had moved from De Leon, Texas to Nashville, and Michael had moved from Canova, West Virginia. They were young songwriters, and they were living on bologna and crackers, just waiting to get a song cut. And I have to tell you that it is a blast being up here with them. Seeing how they've grown, their music has affected my life, and they've gotten better looking every year. Woo! By the grace of God, skilled surgeons. No, I'm kidding. No, come on. Really, seriously, their music has...
If I want this kind of abuse, I can stay at home. Wait a minute. I am at home. I'm sorry. That's right. Lost my head.
We have gotten to know each other really well this last year on this tour. And Gary and I, especially since the summer of 1982 when we got married. And...
I'm still living on bologna and crackers.
Woo! Singer!
Zing there! I got it.
You know, it's funny when you spend your life wanting to write songs, because you do have to be able to take criticism from each other, and that's what pushes us on to write better songs. And sometimes you think your very best work is going to change the world, and your friends say, that belongs on the dog heap. And then sometimes you bring in something that you have so little confidence in, and they say this one's going to change the world. The summer of '82, we had some good friends that were moving from Nashville to Jackson, Mississippi, and we didn't know when we'd see them again. And Michael and his wife Debbie wrote a song for them, and this one has changed my life. When you spend every night of the year saying goodbye to people, it helps to remember that this is not the end. And so we thought we would do that song for you guys. Unless... Oh, that's another good one. You want to do that one instead?
No, that's okay. No.
Packing up the dreams that been in the fertile soil of you. I can't believe the hope she's granted means a chapter in your life is through.
But we'll keep you close as always. You won't even seem we've gone.
'Cause our hearts in big and small ways will keep the love that keeps us strong. And friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, 'cause the welcome will not end. Though it's hard to let you go, in the Father's hands we know that a lifetime's not too long to live as friends.
Sing with us.
And friends are friends forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, 'cause the welcome will not end. Though it's hard to let you go, in the Father's hands we know that a lifetime's not too long to live as friends. No, a lifetime's not too long to live as friends.
The last song from A Moment in Time is Say Once More. It's a song that has taken on a whole new special meaning.
Well, when I wrote Say Once More, it was definitely a one-on-one song. It's very romantic and intimate, and you know, loving the feeling of being in love, but realizing there are no guarantees, and how that is scary, and it's so simple. It almost is kind of ridiculous to try to explain the song. But at the very end of the Unguarded tour back in 1986, I started singing the first version of Say Once More. I rewrote it later on. And it suddenly, singing that for an audience, it took on such a different feeling. It was like the song was written for an audience. And now, you know, we closed the whole concert with Say Once More, and it just feels like the perfect wrap up, because I really do feel all the lyrics in that song. When I'm singing them at the end of a concert, I feel all of that emotion toward the audience. And it's so nice to be able to sing something that really communicates what you're feeling, rather than trying to say a good night.
Let me say once more that I love you. Let me say one time, maybe two, that I love the way that you love me, and I wish I knew more of you. Let me say once more that I love you. Let me say one time, maybe two, that I love the way that you love me, and I wish I knew more of you. Tell me that time can't erase this look of love on your face. Let me say once more that I need you, one more time, or just maybe two. Oh, my life will always be richer for the time I've spent here with you. Let me say once more that I love you, one more time, or just maybe two. My life will always be richer for the time I've spent here with you. And tell me that time won't erase the way that my heart sees your face.
You look my way. It's clear you trust each word I say. When life is long and problems come, you'll always be my only one. So now we're standing face to face, but with one look, your eyes embrace me, squeeze away each haunting fear, and say the words I long to hear.
Tell me that time won't erase this look of love. No. Let me say once more that I love you. Let me say one time, maybe two. Our lives will always be richer for the time we've spent here with you. God bless y'all. Good night.
I've watched this whole thing grow. We've all been involved with each other for 9, 10 years, whatever, and I've really seen a great deal of maturity. I believe it's happening in my life, and that's not ego. Boy, I still got a long way to go, but boy, I have really changed. You know, I've changed the way I think about things. That my priorities have changed. But I used to, I don't think it was godly, but I used to pay a lot of attention to my career and what was happening. Hey, are we selling records or not? And I really don't care anymore. You know, there's a part of me that doesn't, you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with having kids, and I've got 3 children, and at the same time, I look at Amy, and she's never, I mean, the way I look at her, she's never changed in that aspect of, I don't think she really ever did care if she sold records. That's probably ministered to me more than anything, is just watching her just be unaffected by all that's happened, you know, in the past 10 years, and the career taking off and all that sort of thing. We've just all matured, you know, and Gary's changed. I think we all see it in each other, and it's I don't think I can sit here and explain it in a 60-second deal. I mean, you just sense there's maturity that's happened, and God is growing us up into the people that we already are. You know, God's really making us holy. He's weeding out all the old stuff, and I mean, that's life to me. That's more exciting than being out on the road and do what we do. I mean, but that's to me, just to see what's happening every night, and even sitting here talking. I mean, there's a sense of there's just a wonderful feeling of just knowing that God has been so faithful. You know, He's continued to keep His hand upon us. Having kids have really changed my perspective on life a lot.
Yeah, it has to.
You know? It really does.
Either that or your kids will kill you.
Right.
Because it's impossible to be selfish and be a parent. I'm finding out little by little by little. You know, because they won't put up with it.
Right.
They say, no! And it's, I think that's the thing that sticks out for me. And you touched on that. I thank God that I'm less selfish than I used to be. And I don't think I'm anywhere near there. I still try to figure things out myself, and I still try to manipulate my life on occasion, and I still think of me more than I want to. But I think of me a lot less than I used to. And I'm really thankful for that. I care more about other people, and I'm glad to feel that. I see that in each one of you guys. I do.
You know, a lot of people have the experience of a youthful encounter with Christ. It happens in youth groups all across the country. It happens in a school group that suddenly a bunch of kids get turned on to Christ, and it's like a grass fire. But for most of those kids, they never lock in anywhere, and the older they get, they think of that experience as a part of their childhood. Some of them explain it away when they get older. Some of them wish they could go back, but they don't think it's ever going to be the same. And I think something really unique that happened to a bunch of us was that we had this experience. I was one of the kids in the youth group, and so was Mike Blanton, my manager. So was Brown Bannister, my producer. Less than a year passed outside of the youth group. I was still involved in it. Gary moves to town. Smitty moves to town. And we were a bunch of kids that were so excited. And sure, there was an age difference between us, and we played different roles in that group. But what happened was we stayed locked in with a group of people that had the initial vision for what Christ in our lives could mean. And I think one thing that we're so aware of in our, Michael and Gary and me, because we are the most public of that group that's come from Nashville, is praying for kids every night before and after the concert. God, lock them into a group, because none of us has the power to stand on our own. And just to get on stage with now a lot of people in the band, we've known each other for so long, they weren't part of that initial group, but it's, you know, the extended group, the new group of fellowship. And it's always a constant conversation and desire with us, with kids that listen to us. Are you locked in with the group? Nobody can stand by yourself. Are you? You know, you plugged in with people that are going to hang with you through thick and thin. And it's funny looking around this circle of the people in the room right now, on mic and off mic, that even now we've got friends that are going through experiences that make me think that my world is falling down around me. And you ask me, you know, what's going on in my head, and sometimes I feel like I live in a fairy tale, and sometimes I feel like I live in hell, because of life just kicks us in the teeth again and again. And if it's not kicking you, it's kicking your grandmother. If it's not kicking your grandmother, it's kicking your girlfriend and her marriage. And, you know, and it's stuff that would not make sense or mean anything to anybody else on tape. But seeing in every new phase of our life, our new and deeper need for Jesus makes me really want to keep doing what I'm doing. And, you know, we go back a long way, this group in Nashville, a long way.
No, a lifetime's not too long to live as friends.
This has been A Moment in Time, the radio special from Reunion Records, Myrrh Records, and Tree Torn. This is Jon Rivers. For Amy, Gary, and Michael, thanks for listening.
The first cut was Father's Eyes, and you are now a for real songwriter.
Amy Grant, Gary Chapman, and Michael W. Smith, friends of yours and mine, special intimate friends with each other.
Time since I've seen you smile.
On the Lead Me On World Tour, over 1 million people experience the emotion, the electricity that happens when these three special friends share the spotlight.
Friends of friends forever, friends with the lonesome Lord.
Now you can take home that phenomenon, that special moment in time to last you a lifetime with your very own limited edition cassette, A Moment in Time. Exclusive interviews and live recordings from the Lead Me On World Tour with Amy, Gary, and Michael. Hurry, don't miss out on this very special opportunity to capture a moment in time forever. Sponsored by Tree Torn, Myrrh, and Reunion Records. Available at participating retailers in your area.